Welcome back, everybody. Just double checking I've got my mic and my cam on. It's always the way when you come back from lunchtime. So we're moving into this afternoon session on data of Uncon. What I'd like to do is just welcome Joe Wolf from Splunk to come on to the stage. There we go. There we go. Hi, Joe. And your mic is on?
I believe so. Can you hear me?
It's working fine. And to answer your question that you asked 2 seconds before the presentation started, yes, if you've got a video to share, you can click on the little more button and it says share YouTube or whatever. So,
okay, awesome.
So, yes, so welcome, Joe. Splunk is a new name in the housing sector. As Dave said this morning, Splunk is it's a multinational company. It's does a lot of stuff around data insights, and you know, in the UK, it's been working extensively with McLaren F1. So think about F1 and the amount of data points you get there, and Splunk crunches all of that. So they want to bring all this insight from all the work they've been doing with people like McLaren and bring it into social housing. So that's enough from me. Over to you, Joe. Have a good time. See you in a bit.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. Can everybody see that? I will take that as a yes. So yeah, thank you very much, Stu, and everyone at DTL for having me. It's been great the last day or so, and I know some of my colleagues have been on yesterday as well, and they've been sort of feeding back about some of the great stuff that everyone's been talking about. Thanks so much, Ryan. I caught your presentation before. It was really great, understanding, you know, some of the pain points that you're addressing in housing. I'm actually envious of your experience as well, as I'm very new to this sector. So a bit about me, you know, why am I here? So I've been at Splunk for about 4 years now, looking after various sectors, public and private, but mainly in the public sector. Been working in the education sector for the last couple of years, so helped build that out. And everyone always said, you know, Splunk is going to be unattainable for higher education, but we're actually working with just over 1/3 of all UK universities now. About 50% of the Russell Group universities as well, on some of their initiatives around SEAM. So that would be, you know, security, IT operations management. So, you know, making sure their student-facing applications are up and running and to the standard that a student wants, in line with getting their NSS scores up and things like that. Student analytics, so that goes into gathering all that data from every platform or building. It could be a library or whatever that a student interacts with, and understanding what good looks like, what a potential pass or a fail could look like, and putting in place intervention strategies to help overcome any difficulties. It could be to do with obviously aligning to attainment goals, but also around mental health, which is something very important as well. Another area we help with is the connected campus. So, you know, understanding through Wi-Fi data where students are in what buildings and what the flow looks like through campus, etc. So, yeah, I've been doing a lot of research on housing, as I've just been sort of tasked over the last couple of months with, okay, well, go and do in housing what you did in higher education. And I've been doing lots of research. Obviously, there's, you know, lots of terms floating around that all sort of comes back to data. So, you know, there's obviously the Internet of Things, so sensors and the like. You know, data is another word that I just keep seeing on all the marketing. I'm afraid it's going to get a little watered down, to be honest. Housing maintenance, housing management platforms, and the like. But yeah, we can get lost in all of these words. And you know, without vision, purpose, an outcome in mind, and conviction, you know, we're not going to really get anywhere. So, you know, we all want to get from A to B with little or no distractions. And actually, my life is a pretty good example of how not to get from A to B quickly. I was reading up on, presentations and what goes down well, and they always said, be self-deprecating. And I know us folks in the UK like to take the mick out of ourselves. So a brief history about me. So how did I get from A to B? I left sixth form at 18 after doing okay, and as you can see, taking school very seriously. That was me in my business studies lesson. Also had a fantastic haircut and glasses combo. I was then a musician for 10 years, again with some more interesting looks, sleeping on floors, outside, tents on the side of the motorway, all in the name of rock and roll, I guess you could say. And eventually, when it came time to, everyone was saying, get a real job. What are you doing? I then, what did I do? It was the only thing I thought I could do, and that was I became a wedding singer. So it was by chance that I actually played the wedding of someone who worked at Splunk, and I thought, well, I need to change something here. I'll try and sort of butter this person up, and the name obviously was pretty interesting. Actually comes from spelunking, which means to sort of like cave diving, and it all sort of comes back to diving deep into your data. But yeah, I managed to somehow wangle an interview at Splunk, and I love it. I've been here ever since. So yeah, I mean, A to B is where we want to get to, and as you can see, my journey was a little convoluted. So we're all pretty guilty of getting dragged into the new and exciting. With one of these terms or phrases being data driven. Ryan, you mentioned AI, machine learning, and the such. Yeah, and these buzzwords just sort of fly around, and I've been reading like Housing Technology magazine and doing research into HA strategy and everything like that, and everyone wants to use data better, but what does it actually mean? It means a million different things to 1,000 different people, right? So I'm going to hopefully run through what I think should be the right strategy, and without getting dragged into buzzwords and phrases that we all think that or keeping up with the Joneses, that this company are doing this, we should do that. Let's actually work from the desired outcome that we want, and make sure we ask the right questions of the right data to influence that outcome. So I was just thought we'd play a little game. So if I was to tell you that the image on the left is A and the image in the middle is B, in which category do you think the image on the right belongs to? Now, keep that in your mind, and I'll move on to my next slide. So if I was to give you a few more examples, what do you think the bottom image belongs to? Is it A? Is it B? Or neither A and B? Or everything? So, if I was to use these with a basic machine vision algorithm, it would be A, as what is the most consistent feature? It is that red circle in the middle. But why are these simple examples important in the context of working backwards from the desired outcome? So, in fact, if I care more about when the position of the line or slightly interesting shaped object around the circle or square in one of the cases changes, then the answer would be B. So ultimately, honing the questions backwards from your desired outcome is what's important. Otherwise, we can just get lost or trust in machine learning, which is there to pick up a pattern. You need to ask the right questions of the data to actually get to that desired outcome. So yeah, I mean, above is a simplistic example, but by layering those considerations from the desired outcome with the main factors that are going to affect it, whilst looking backwards from the desired outcome, you'll get more reliable results. So I did want to share a video with you now on some of the work we've done with the Global Emancipation Network. Let me just see how I do that. All right, you should all be able to see that. Right, so I'll go back to share my screen. So yeah, I mean, I hope you found that video pretty interesting. It's a pretty dark cause, but a cause that needs to be fought. And I think they went around it the right way using data. So the Global Emancipation Network, or GEN as it's called for short, empowers global stakeholders with the world's first data-centered counter-trafficking solution. And they use Splunk to index, extract, and search disparate data sets from trafficking websites, integrate services, and to quickly surface that information needed to complete investigations. Then create and respond to alerts, and ultimately reduce time to action. So they've identified nearly 1,000 nefarious users online, and they are actually supporting a growing number of criminal investigations. So it's a real sort of they really are fighting the good fight, and as you saw in the video, they're moving to what else can they fight by using data. So what was their issue? I mean, obviously the very high level issue or problem or outcome that they were looking was to reduce the amount of trafficking. But in this case, they're very limited on resources, and I know that we can all relate to that. But I want to make the best impact with the limited resources I have. So if you look at this map I've got on the left side of the screen here, this particular use case I'm about to demonstrate actually involved massage parlors. From the data they're gathering, that they had a lot of points of interest, shall I say, and with some of the red dots from the data that they'd collected, they could see that those were of particular interest, but they still had limited resource to send people around to actually do checks on these. So I mean, let's just look at the data sources and what they were actually studying. Is a mixture of structured and unstructured data, stuff on sentiment as well. So I mean, believe it or not, there is a website called RubMap apparently. Probably wouldn't recommend looking it up. Yelp reviews, massage business adverse filings, the amount of apprentices that these massage parlors have, and they identified a trend from that they were coming from particular schools, but still this was throwing out a ton of results, too much for their limited resources to handle. So they had to do something about this. How do they flow that data? So first and foremost, obviously they collect that data, those raw logs, ingest that, provide some sort of profile to it, so identify data features that help identify the human trafficking activities. They would then apply some kind of model to indicate risk and associate a risk score to it. And then obviously on the front end, they need some sort of way of interacting with that data. So when we go back to addressing the outcome and we look at how those different questions and associating risk scores and things to it can flow down to make it something that's a lot more manageable. We look at collecting all the data. Well, we've identified on the left hand side, what is it, 22,707. How are we going to respond to that, with our limited resources. Then they start providing a profile to it to get it down. Then we're in under 5,000 then, but still way too much to manage. Then once we've applied a risk score to this and set an alert up that way, we then start getting into more manageable numbers. And when we go into the high risk, we're into the 500 mark, which makes it a lot easier for us to be able to go around and check these massage parlors manually, right? And see, are there any of the key indicators there? So it's all around working backwards from that outcome. The outcome was, how do we address this problem with our limited amount of resources? And they did all that looking backwards from the data and from the outcome. And this next example is probably, I haven't been there myself, but it is a very high performing environment. And yeah, it's Dubai Airport. So Dubai Airport, well, actually they headhunted the CIO from Gatwick Airport, who were already a Splunk customer. So Dubai Airport, they had some outcomes that they wanted to hit, and that was to increase passengers. So they've got 90 million passengers flow through the airport annually. They wanted to get that to 100 million by 2020. I don't know if they reached that because we all know how 2020 is going. And they wanted to do that actually without adding any additional runways or any additional infrastructure. So they wanted to use data to do that. So by using data, they wanted to track passenger flow and get people through the airport, get more planes taking off. And yeah, they all did that using data. They also use 2.5% of the city's overall energy consumption, which is pretty nuts if you ask me. But they wanted to lower that consumption by 20% using data. So that's, understanding where people are in buildings, where air conditioning needs to go on, where it doesn't. Just, using real-time data insight to best suit the numbers that they have, right? And if they got that down by 20%, that would actually equate to around $25 million savings per year. They also Splunk the toilets, which is a term that sounds better written down. So they put sensors on taps, toilet doors, the hand dryers, everything, and they called it the golden bathroom as well, to best understand when they needed to deploy cleaners, to ultimately improve customer experience and sentiment. They also use data to get people through security in 5 minutes or less. And it's quite interesting actually, because you would generally relate that to sentiment, but the actual outcome they wanted was they wanted more people to spend money on the other side of security. If we relate that to Gatwick Airport, what's that? That's another pint in the Wetherspoons, or you could buy the latest Stephen King novel, or go and get an extra travel adapter or mosquito repellent in the boots. So yeah, they use data to ultimately drive that goal. So I guess sort of 3 main points around working backwards from the outcomes. It's all in the questioning for me. I work for a technology company, right? But technology isn't a silver bullet. You're not just going to put it in and it's not going to solve all your problems. Anyone who says that is not right. They shouldn't be selling you that dream, because it comes down to obviously the 3 main pillars, which is people, process, and technology. What do you want to achieve? What is your desired outcome? And what questions of what data will get you those answers? And I guess, I'm not here to sell you Splunk. I'm just here to understand more about housing associations, that market, and what particular pains I could potentially align to help with solve. So Splunk, we're data agnostic. We can collect any data, be it from sensors. Obviously Stu talked about McLaren earlier. We use all their data from virtual gaming actually to test the cars and look at what Lando's doing around the track. So yeah, we're data agnostic. That can be structured or unstructured, as I said. Whatever data, we can take it in, correlate with other data sources, and make informed business decisions, all in real time. With Splunk, there's 3 main pillars that we work in, and that is SIEM, so ultimately security, aligning to compliance like cyber essentials, etc. IT operations management, so making sure your infrastructure, your critical applications are all up and running, and then analytics, so be those predictive analytics or real-time analytics. They are our key focus areas. So I hope you enjoyed my ramblings today. Thank you very much, Stu, for having me, and everyone. I do appreciate your time listening to me and giving me the opportunity. And yeah, I hope to speak to you on our table after. I'll be hanging around for sure. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe. We've actually got some questions that have come up from the presentation. So if you bear with me a second, so my wife just handed me a cup of tea. I'm really this is a complete aside. Here is my previous Uncon mug, right? So branding, but I got it out of the dishwasher and it's got a chip on it, and I'm really upset. So I've had to go for a standard mug. So apologies. Right, Joe, first question. Data representation via dashboards, which is something you did mention. It's nothing new. No. Do Splunk see data representation beyond the dashboard?
Beyond the dashboard? So, I mean, dashboards, everyone always says we want to see data represented on a dashboard, right? But, we like to, what we try and do at Splunk is, we don't just want to be seen as technology. We want to actually link IT to the business and solve some real key issues. As I say, I'm very new and fresh-faced, I guess, on the housing side of things. But in higher education, that some of the use cases that they're using this for are extremely high level, aligning to what the VCs care about. So I guess that's a difficult question to ask, really. There's quite a lot of different points from it.
Well, take that away with you then, Joe.
Yeah.
Put it to the powers that be, and see what you come back to the sector with.
Yeah, there's people a lot more clever than I am working at Splunk, as I'm not technical whatsoever. So yeah, absolutely. I know I've got Mark on the table as well, who's my technical counterpart, who I'm sure could absolutely address some of these as well.
No worries. What does, I think this again, this came out from a conversation in the chat. What does technology for good look like in housing from Splunk's perspective?
Well, anything that can like drive forward outcomes for change, and it could be better living conditions. It could be getting people housed more quickly. Anything that sort of moves the wheel really, and transforms the sector. That's what we ultimately want to do. In higher education, it was, well, how can we improve student attainment, right? How can we stop people from swapping their courses and making them start on the right track to reduce their stress levels? It's all these sorts of things, and I guess sometimes everyone wants to do things that are sometimes quite fluffy and untangible, but ultimately, all those answers are in the data and the way you interpret that. So yeah, I mean that would be my answer to that question. We just want to help out, and we, as I say, we've got Splunk for Good, which aligns to things like the Global Emancipation Network to, drive for change and do good with technology. Because, being realistic, some companies aren't, are seen as unattainable by government, by housing, and we were very much the same way in higher education at first, and we really worked with that vertical to understand what they wanted to do and align what we did to that.
I mean, it's something that you allude to there, more fluffy kind of outcomes. I mean, your presentation was very much around how data can be used for good. I take on board the fact that both you and Splunk are new to the housing sector,
Absolutely.
so you won't have tons of answers. But there's a consistent debate, and it does cross over into technology. But as a housing sector, there's always a debate around how can we support tenants and residents in viewing the properties they live in as their home. And I think that's an interesting perspective to look at in terms of the data that a platform like Splunk collects, but how it then presents it back. Maybe it can seem like a vast gulf between the data that's collected by a HA and what's represented through something like Splunk, but that gets to that ultimate aim of reinforcing the fact that the property that someone lives in should be viewed as their home. So
absolutely. Yeah,
maybe there's something to think about on that.
Home is is where someone's comfortable, right? And I'd love to be able to help with stuff like that. I mean, I just like helping out. I guess that's the sort of, I don't know, the person I am. I mean, in higher education at the moment, I do a lot of stuff that off my own back, because I felt like when I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? And I didn't realize that this world existed. So I've aligned to like the cyber first strategy, for example. So starting going in, well, when I'm allowed, going into schools and talking to younger girls that IT or cybersecurity isn't a man's job or whatever. It's and I didn't realize this avenue existed. So anything I can do to help people out, I'll always do it, because I felt like I've sort of got a bit of a second swing at life, I guess, when after I was I was having a great time, if I'm honest, but after I was in a band for 10 years and then started playing weddings.
I like it. So this is probably a similar type of question, but I'm hoping it's probably something you can answer a bit more. The question is, so I'm intrigued. Splunk work with F1. What made you look to housing?
Well, F1 is it's pretty recent, to be honest. It's only the start of this season that we started doing it. So we've actually been working with local government, higher education, central government, NHS use us for a lot longer time. But it's just an area that we don't have any real sort of grab onto at all. We don't understand it. That's what I've been challenged to do, and I know that with data we can do a lot. We can do a lot of good stuff, and with Splunk we can do a lot of good stuff, and that's why I've been challenged with trying to almost cookie cut what I've done in other areas to this new and exciting space. To be honest, there's a lot of stuff we can do, but also I think, as I alluded to earlier, there's a lot of noise out there, right? So once there's a buzzword out there, everyone's marketing is on data at the moment, and what separates us to the naked eye to the next person, right? And I know that we've got the stories to back it up, and it's our core principles were built around this, right? So Yeah, I'm just keen to get involved in some projects and start demonstrating actually what what good could look like and how we could challenge what has been done before, and also I guess get rid of perceptions that these big software companies are ugly ugly
Well,
beasts.
I think it's a really intriguing proposition that you're coming across with, because a lot of people who come to the Uncon have been working in the sector for a long time, especially around technology. And sometimes, and I'm guilty of this as well, sometimes we can all get a little bit jaded when we see a technology provider come on to do a presentation. One of the key things that we really like about Uncon is that, you don't really get people coming on doing a software demo,
Yeah.
and overtly trying to flog your stuff. What I think is really, what I find really refreshing is someone coming on doing a presentation and going, do you know what? Don't have answers for you at the moment. I want to engage with you and have a conversation. We know through all the work we've done in UK public sector, there's something there, but we need to explore what the data you're collecting, how Splunk can use it. So actually, that is quite refreshing, because it's not often that happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just, I guess, wear my heart on my sleeve. As what people say to me, but we just, I just want to understand the pains and the outcomes, right? Because as I said, technology isn't the silver bullet. You don't just plug something in and your life is fixed, right? There is a degree of actually having a direction, and my fear is the market is so flooded, right, that we'll lose that clarity for the overall objective, and just get sucked from pillar to post, and what's cheapest, oh, that might do the job, blah blah blah. But really, if we start using a data driven, or a platform approach, we can solve a lot of problems in one thing.
So there's two bits coming out of that, which actually play into some questions here, both of them from Gabby. I think you've already answered the question of what would you like to ask the audience to get in touch with you about after this session. It sounds like you really want to understand those pain points and what outcomes are really important for the HA that can utilize data. So I think you've answered that one. She's then gone on to say, after, as you've only been, sort of dipping your toe into the water for the first few months, and obviously bearing in mind the COVID situation, what's your impression of many HAs claiming to be data driven?
So, I mean, that's an interesting one, because for me, there's a difference between business intelligence and being data driven. So, BI tools are all around structured data, right? So data in rows, columns, and databases, where a lot of data is stored. But the real beauty is when you can correlate that with the unstructured data. So, data that's not, you don't have locally. It could be that of a sensor. It could be that of, it could be machine data. It could be from a number of different sources, that when you actually get the full picture and the full context, the outcome is a lot easier to get. Otherwise, you're still just working in silos, right? And we're all around, you hear it all the time, right? Yeah, our teams are siloed even within actual organizations. We don't share data within our organization. The security team don't share data with the ops team. The ops team don't share data with the BI team. So why are we all doing different things when ultimately we could be working together and sharing all the different things that we care about?
So does Splunk have a lot of experience with consuming machine data, from things like sensors and IoT?
Yeah, it is essentially it's probably our bread and butter, really. That was our USP for years. That we can, any data in humanly readable form, Splunk can ingest. So, there's loads of other really cool case studies, around, there was a New York air brake, which is like these mile-long trains in the US that like transport coal or whatever from one side of the country to the other. And they were spending so much money on fuel, and they put some sensor data from the trains into Splunk and actually developed the most efficient driving pattern using that data. So, obviously when you're going up a hill, accelerate. When you're going down, you don't need to. It was all pretty simple stuff. But I think it was a pretty small investment, but I think they saved like $1 billion in fuel in 1 year or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah, we do a lot of stuff with IoT and sensor data, from production lines end to end to fighter jets and things like that.
Cool. I mean, it sounds like I'm just looking at the chat. It sounds like you've been getting some props from Ryan Dempsey of TCW about your comment about the market being flooded with tech. He's just said, great comment. The sector is flooded, but if you strip it back, you can find some really cool tech that does great things with their core offering. It's when they get greedy and try to be everything to everyone. Money, 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 money. So there you go. You're getting some props.
Ryan, I really liked your presentation. Actually, it was really good.
So maybe you need to hunt each other out.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, you need to hunt each other out and see if there's opportunities to work together. We're coming towards the end. There doesn't seem to be any more questions coming in at the moment. What we do have, though, and this is just a bit of tongue in cheek, why is Lando not here? So that's from Gabby, who is a rabid F1 fan.
I know. I got her onto a what was it, the virtual slipstream or something for one of the Grand Prix.
Well, there you go. If there's HAs and you're an F1 fan, get in touch with Splunk, and you can get access to the slipstream, whatever the hell that is.
It wasn't great, to be honest. It was just like watching it on your TV, but with
I don't even know what it is. and then we've had a final response, I think, to Gabby's point, and it's from Paul Aitken of South Lakes Housing, where he just says Lando would be a great addition to the conference. Yeah, thanks.
I mean, I can put a word in, right? But, I'll text him now.
Yeah, there you go. You got Lando on speed dial.
Yeah, I wish.
I think that looks like it from the. Yeah, there's lots of people now going off that, saying, imagine the memes in the conference with Lando. The memes.
Yeah.
Actually, it might be useful for you, Joe, to hunt out both, not just Ryan, but Dean Marsh.
Okay, cool.
From Barkid Group, because he's just put a comment on. We've done something very similar in-house, which is around IoT and sensors. Awesome. So much potential. Simple temperature, humidity sensors in properties is a game changer. So it might be that you find Dean, and it's just one of those interesting conversations that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I love chatting to people. To be honest, that's the
no worries.
Only thing I'm good at.
Well, I always like to give the last word to the speaker. So the last word's over to you, Joe.
Enjoy your PS5, Stu.
Can you see the box in the background? All right then, Joe. That's the last word then from you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you very much, and thanks everyone for getting involved as usual. We've now got another break. We're so generous to you. I think break, I will just check the agenda to make sure. I don't want to do what Dave did yesterday. Yes, we're giving you 30 minutes, and then back again 2:15 p.m. for the next session, which will be Switchy. Interestingly, their title of their session is Insights from a Billion Data Points, something that I'm sure Splunk crunches every second, Joe.
Potentially, yeah.
There you go. Okay, thanks so much, Joe. Take it easy, everybody. See you in a bit.